Spider-Man is going to die. No tricks, no fake outs. Today, we are diving deep into a storyline that fundamentally shatters the friendly neighborhood hero we all know, pushing him to a completely brutal, irreversible end. We're going to examine the mechanics, the deeply emotional stakes, and the absolute agonizing sequence of events that leads to Peter Parker's ultimate sacrifice. We are essentially witnessing the final, desperate moments of a grounded icon, and I am going to break down exactly how this incredibly dark tragedy unfolds. I want you to really picture the sheer cinematic scale of what's coming here. We are not talking about a simple villain of the week skirmish where everyone walks away fine. This is a world-altering collision course. Imagine the thick, choking dust filling the air, the crumbling, jagged architecture of collapsing skyscrapers all around, and our hero bleeding out in the rubble of a once vibrant metropolis. It is a massive, city-leveling disaster where the agonizing physical toll on Peter is matched only by the devastating emotional fallout. This is his absolute breaking point, the exact moment where literally every ounce of his willpower is drained. Section 1. Mutation versus mutation. To truly understand how we actually reach this devastating climax, we have to look at the two ticking time bombs that set this whole thing in motion. First up, we have Bruce Banner. Right now, he is desperately clinging to his fragile humanity, relying almost entirely on an arm-mounted inhibitor device. This absolutely crucial piece of tech is designed to completely suppress his volatile gamma radiation levels. Banner strongly prefers to remain human, obviously. He basically lives in constant waking fear of the monster lurking just beneath his skin. But here's the thing about technology, especially when it's actively fighting raw primordial nature, it is fundamentally flawed and it is absolutely doomed to break. And I need you to understand that when this limiter inevitably fails, it isn't just a minor glitch or a slow leak. A massive, violent surge of gamma radiation forcefully triggers an unstoppable transformation. We're not dealing with the smart, calculated Professor Hulk we've grown accustomed to seeing in recent years. No, when that trigger is hit by physical overload or severe emotional trauma, the raw, unbridled rage just violently tears its way out of Banner. The beast is unleashed, completely untethered from human reason, fueled purely by pure agony and an insatiable, terrifying urge to destroy everything in its immediate path. But simultaneously, Peter Parker is dealing with his own nightmare. He is suffering from a terrifying biological shift of his own. It's his brutal phase of uncontrolled mutations, something the comics aptly refer to as spider puberty. And honestly, this is straight up visceral body horror. His physiology violently changes, his powers completely misfire, and his very cells become dangerously unpredictable. He might suddenly find himself painfully stuck to his own webbing, or experience severe, agonizing physical alterations. Think about how terrifying that is. At the exact moment he needs to be at his absolute physical peak to save lives, his own spider biology is violently betraying him from the inside out. So now imagine the choreography of this horrific scenario with me. A confused, wildly mutating Spider-Man is abruptly forced into a lethal, city-shattering deathmatch against a completely enraged, unstoppable Hulk. When these two massive forces collide, it is a cinematic nightmare. We have two heroes utterly compromised by their own mutating bodies, tearing through the crowded streets. It's an all-out, brutal war where the collateral damage is just immense. Concrete shatters, cars are hurled like literal toys, and Peter is forced to step up and try to somehow halt a walking force of nature, all while his own powers are actively failing him. This dynamic perfectly echoes those desperate, classic moments when Peter faces titans far, far beyond his physical weight class. He is literally David fighting an indestructible Goliath. He is always willing to take devastating, bone-crushing injuries just to protect innocent civilians from getting caught in the crossfire. Even as his own body mutates and fails him, his pure, unyielding heroism simply refuses to let him stand down. He absorbs concussive blows that would instantly shatter a normal human, pushing his broken, bleeding form to the absolute physical brink, just to somehow halt the Hulk's terrifying rampage. Section 2. The Anti-Gamma Webbing. Peter knows that brute force isn't going to win this fight. You just can't outpunch the Hulk. To survive fighting a monster that acts as a walking nuclear reactor, Peter has to engineer a desperate, brilliant technological solution on the fly. Because normal webbing would just instantly melt and vaporize near the Hulk's intense radiating body heat, Peter deploys a custom, heat-resistant anti-gamma webbing. He completely relies on this highly specialized synthetic polymer engineered specifically to withstand extreme radioactive decay to physically tie the raging monster down. It's a pure, thrilling battle of sheer intellect going up against raw radioactive rage. And against absolutely all odds, Peter's sheer ingenuity actually works. He manages to layer enough of this incredible glowing webbing to pin down the Hulk, just long enough for Bruce Banner's deeply buried consciousness to desperately claw its way back to the surface. But man, it takes absolutely everything Peter has left in the tank. He pushes through the blistering heat and the blinding agony of his own battered, mutating body to make it happen. But this heavy physical restraint gives Bruce that vital, fleeting fraction of a second he needs to fight the Hulk from the inside out and finally reclaim his human form. The blinding, debris-filled dust finally starts to settle. Peter stands exhausted, his suit completely torn to shreds, right next to a devastated, deeply traumatized Bruce Banner. Both of them just look out over completely destroyed, smoldering city blocks. The cinematography of a moment like this is just harrowing. It's dead quiet. Bruce is practically drowning in grief and regret, sinking to his knees as he realizes his loss of control has once again caused untold destruction. It is this quiet, profoundly tragic moment of reflection after the massive storm, giving us a brief, sorrowful lull to just catch our breath. Section 3. The Fatal Shot. But we have to realize that the true danger isn't over. Not even close. The real, fatal tragedy is quietly lurking just above them, waiting in the shadows. Through the clearing smoke, the cold, unmistakable glare of a sniper rifle glints from a nearby rooftop. The Punisher has Bruce Banner absolutely dead to rights in his crosshairs. Frank Castle doesn't see a tragic hero struggling with a terrible, uncontrollable curse. He sees a mass murderer who just leveled a city block. As Peter's spider sense begins to violently scream in his head, he realizes the lethal threat isn't the Hulk anymore. It is a high-velocity bullet aimed right at Banner's head. Let's dive into the Punisher's cold, brutal ideology in this incredibly tense moment. Looking down at the crushed buildings and listening to the sirens wailing in the distance, he adamantly refuses to let this cycle of collateral damage continue. Frank Castle's logic is terrifyingly simple and completely uncompromising. How many more times will Banner lose control? How many more innocent people have to die? To the Punisher, executing Banner isn't murder at all. It's the only logical, necessary way to save future lives. He acts as the ultimate ruthless judge. The Punisher slowly, steadily pulls the trigger. It's a cold-blooded, definitive choice to end Banner permanently, so the Hulk can never surface to hurt anyone ever again. The firing pin strikes. The bullet leaves the chamber. Time slows to an absolute crawl. The cracking sound of the gunshot echoes across the ruined skyline. In this microscopic, incredibly tense cinematic moment, the entire trajectory of the universe completely shifts. We are basically watching a fraction of a second stretch into an eternity, hanging right on the razor's edge of life and death. And in that split second, Peter processes the horrifying math of the situation. He knows for a fact that if that bullet only grazes or injures Bruce, the sudden shock, pain, and massive trauma will immediately trigger the Hulk all over again, resulting in even more innocent deaths. Driven by pure instinctual heroism, Peter throws his own broken, exhausted body directly into the path of the sniper's high-velocity bullet. Without a single moment of hesitation, without a second thought for his own survival, he makes the ultimate, fatal sacrifice to break the cycle of violence. The bullet violently tears right through him. Peter Parker falls to the concrete, dead. Bruce Banner is left kneeling beside him, shattered by unimaginable trauma, realizing a young hero just gave his life to save a monster. It is a haunting, devastating end for our friendly neighborhood hero. The silence that follows that gunshot is just deafening. But as we know, in this universe, the death of a hero is rarely the true end of the story. Which brings me to the ultimate, haunting question of Peter's resurrection. How exactly do you bring a grounded, beloved hero back from the grave? Section 4. The Unexpected Symbiote Host. This is exactly where our story takes a massive turn, shifting from a heartbreaking, emotionally grounded tragedy into a dark, mesmerizing sci-fi rebirth. We have to remember that a fractured, forgotten piece of the alien Venom symbiote was left stranded in this world, and it harbors a deep, sinister, and instinctual attraction specifically to Peter Parker. It has been waiting patiently in the shadows, sensing his immense untapped power. This entity isn't just an alien looking for any random host off the street. It is drawn to Peter's unique, potent biology. And now its perfect host is lying completely lifeless in the cold ground. Let me break down the fascinating, genuinely terrifying reality of Clintar biology for you. These alien symbiotes can actually resurrect the dead, but it comes with a gruesome, highly specific biological condition. The symbiote possesses the sheer cosmic power to restart organic functions, but it strictly requires a vessel that hasn't succumbed to severe cellular degradation. It needs a relatively fresh host to completely fuse its own dark, living matter with the dead, decaying tissue. And this illustrates exactly why Peter is the absolute perfect candidate. Because his highly mutated spider genetics make his cellular tissue incredibly resistant to rapid decay, the symbiote is granted this perfect narrow window of opportunity. It literally slithers into his corpse, hijacks his dormant biological systems, and forcefully, violently restarts his dead heart. It effectively acts as a parasitic alien life support system, taking over completely until Peter's enhanced biology kickstarts back into gear. It is a horrific, unsettling marriage of alien parasite and mutated human genetics. I want you to picture the sheer, spine-tingling tension of this scene. A quiet, moonlit cemetery bathed in cold shadows. A heavy granite gravestone bearing Peter Parker's name. And suddenly, the damp earth begins to violently crack and shift. The dead, chilling silence of the graveyard is broken by the unsettling, wet sound of moving soil. It is a sequence straight out of a horror movie, beautifully and terrifyingly executed to signify that something immensely powerful and incredibly angry is clawing its way back to the world of the living. A hand, wrapped entirely in the sleek, shifting black ooze of the symbiote, bursts from the soil. A reborn, far more lethal Spider-Man pulls himself straight out of his own grave, dirt cascading off his shoulders. This is the ultimate cinematic payoff. He isn't the same optimistic, wisecracking kid who sacrificed himself in that rubble. He is clad in the iconic living black suit, physically resurrected but mentally and emotionally altered by Venom's dark, aggressive, and deeply corrupting influence. This breathtaking, horrific rebirth sets up an incredibly ruthless, comic-accurate Venom Spider-Man, fully ready to unleash absolute hell in the upcoming Secret Wars. He is unbound, aggressively volatile, and carrying the heavy, lingering trauma of his own brutal murder. Looking at this terrifying evolution, I just have to ask you, are we truly prepared to face this dark, untethered era of Peter Parker? The friendly neighborhood hero is gone forever, and a much darker, much more dangerous chapter has just begun. Let that sink in.